On the planet Valor Prime, the mountains themselves were etched with endless glyphs, shimmering under the twin suns like frozen waterfalls of commandments. Every moment of life was governed by these sacred codes: when to speak, when to breathe, when to mourn or to rejoice. The Valorians lived and died by the law stones, each law as unyielding as the black marble on which it was carved. Children were taught to bow their heads and trace the lines with reverent fingers before they learned to walk. Marriages were chosen by council vote, births and deaths recorded with cold precision, and even smiles were regulated, allowed only on feast days and strictly within the designated hours. Laughter was not forbidden outright, but it was considered dangerous, a wild crack in the foundation of their perfectly ordered society. When humanity's first envoy ship crashed into the outskirts of Valor Prime's capital, the High Stone Council feared it was an omen of chaos. The alien sky guards gathered in silent rows, weapons gleaming, prepared to destroy the invader. Out of the broken vessel stumbled Ambassador Alex Torres, his hair in wild tangles, one boot missing, his uniform scorched but eyes bright with that distinct, defiant spark only humans seem to possess. He surveyed the solemn Valorian soldiers, looked up at the towering stone laws around him, and let out a loud, echoing laugh. It rolled across the marble streets like a rogue wave, bouncing against the silent courtyards and up the endless stairways. The Valorians recoiled as though struck, clutching at their long robes, their thin lips twisting in horror. The commander of the guard approached, face pale beneath silver ceremonial paint. "Silence yourself. The law forbids unbidden mirth in the presence of the high stones. You must kneel and recite the 3 verses of submission before your death." Alex doubled over laughing, tears streaming down his soot-smeared cheeks. 3 verses? You've never tried a knock-knock joke, have you? The commander's eyes darted to his officers. What is a knock-knock? And so Alex began. Right there on the sacred plaza, in front of 1,000 stony stairs, he launched into the simplest, silliest human jokes. At first, they stood frozen. But then, a low sound broke from somewhere deep among the gathered soldiers, a single, sharp bark of laughter. All heads turned to the young officer who had made the sound. He slapped a hand over his mouth in terror, trembling violently. Alex knelt before him, grinning wide. "See, you've got it in you. It's not poison, it's freedom." For a moment, the entire city seemed to hold its breath. The statues of law loomed above, etched with eternal decrees. Every child had been taught to fear deviation. Every adult lived under the weight of expectation, their own joy squeezed out over centuries. Yet, as the commander raised his staff to strike Alex down, the young officer let out another giggle. Then a second, longer, bubbling one. Soon another joined, then another. Laughter, hesitant and cracked at first, began to spread like a wildfire. Alex stood and spun in the courtyard, arms flung wide. "It's okay to breathe. It's okay to laugh. You are alive, not statues." The commander tried to shout above the rising chorus, but his voice was drowned. Citizens gathered from every street, eyes wide, watching as the strict lines of tradition trembled. An elder woman dropped to her knees, gripping a stone tablet so tightly it cracked, sobbing not from fear but from something else, relief. The statues themselves seemed to frown down, as if confused by this surge of raw life. Children climbed the steps and danced where only solemn recitations had been allowed. Musicians pulled out long dormant flutes and began to play erratic, joyous notes. In the days that followed, the High Stone Council tried to quell the infection of humor. But every day, Alex wandered the city, telling stories of Earth's silliest traditions, festivals where pies were thrown, races where people ran in floppy shoes, songs that had no purpose except to make each other laugh. A quiet revolution began. People no longer bowed in silence to the stone walls. They decorated them with paint, adding bright swirling colors and faces that winked and grinned. The young officer who first laughed rose as a leader of a new movement, encouraging free thought, emotion, and art. The Lawstones could not stop it. The more they tried to punish laughter, the more it spread, like a beautiful, defiant flame in a long frozen hall. Alex never asked to rule them. He only asked them to remember they had hearts. Years later, statues of the old council lay shattered in the city squares, replaced by murals of radiant, laughing faces. The words once carved in stone now echoed in song and story, transformed into living lessons rather than cold commands. When Alex finally returned to Earth, he left behind a world no longer imprisoned by its own sacred granite. The Valorians watched his ship rise into the sky, some crying, many laughing, all alive in a way they had never imagined possible. They would remember the man who had arrived covered in ash, with a broken boot and an unbreakable spirit, whose laughter had cracked the stones that bound their souls, and from those cracks, new life and light had poured forth.